Hello. So today we're gonna build up on from LeetCode number 1 into LeetCode number 2. This is like a good start to understand either double for loops or just like a one loop and enumerate and kind of like attach it to a library. So let's go over the problem. Given an array of integers numbers and an integers target, return an indices of the two numbers such as they add up to the target number, right? You have to assume that each input will have exactly one solution. So we assume that there's always going to be a solution and they're going to be the same element twice. So they're not going to have repeated elements, which is good. Okay, so this is how we look at this type of problem. Right? Example 1, input numbers equal these numbers and the target number is this. So we need to find something that adds up to 9. So we know the 2 and 7 add up to 9 because numbers 0 and 1, the index 0 and the index 1 equal 9, we return 0 and 1. So the index of these two numbers in this list. Same thing for example 2. Numbers equal 3, 2, 4, and the target is 6. We know that 1 and 2, that the index 1 and 2, so 2 plus 4 equals 6, and so on. So what do they give us? They give us a definition that we need to solve, a list of numbers. So the definition is always going to pass itself. We have a list of numbers and a target number, right? A single number. And then we're going to return a list like this, right? So how can we think about these? We are gonna use a dictionary. So we're gonna put like something that we can store all the values. So it's gonna be empty, and then we're gonna populate it with a for loop. So there's a different way that we can do this. So there are a couple ways, right? One is iterating through each element and then finding one element, let's say 2 minus 9, which is the target number, equal what, right? So then if we find this number, then we know that we can get this total, right? So we can iterate, we check this one, and then we do a for loop that iterates through all of them and checks. And then we do this one and gives us all the results, and then we iterate through this one, and then we check all of them, and then we can do that multiple times, like twice, to find two different totals that match. Right? But that's kind of like brute force, and you don't want to loop twice through a single list because you're just it's not efficient. So then you want to loop once. So we're gonna do a for loop, run through the whole list, save all of these elements, so we know what elements are there. So the addition of 2, 7, and so on. So we save those additions, and then we check with an if statement, if else, right? So how do we approach this quickly? So these are elements that we have seen or we will see, right? And we initiate everything with our empty dictionary, and then we do a for loop. So we're gonna use enumerate to go through this list. Why are we using enumerate? Enumerate is gonna give us a tuple, right, of all of the elements. So why is that helpful? Because then we're gonna do element 0, right? We are gonna have the index, and we're gonna have the element as a tuple, and then we're gonna have the index and the element, and then the index and the element, and so on. So this is what we're gonna get with enumerate. What can we do this with a for loop? We can put I, comma, so we're looking for the two numbers, right? This is I, and comma, and whatever our number, right? and then we can do in this list, right? Enumerate this list. So what we're doing is we're enumerating the list, and when we're finding for this index and this number, if something appended here, if something else, give us a result, right? So then for I and number in enumerate numbers, if target minus that number, so we're iterating through each. So first number is going to be 2, then it's going to do target minus 7, target minus 11, minus 15, and so on. If the target is in sin, if we see this target here, right, then we want to return an index, a list, because they're asking us to return a list, right? So we want to make this into a list result. So this is how you make a list. And then we find sin. So in this, we're going to access the key that is, let's say, that is 2 minus 9, 7, right? So we're going to access that key that became 7. And then we're going to include the index of the number that we're currently in. So let's say this is kind of like backwards, but first we need to check before we can start populating the list. We need to check, we need to create this check. So once we start populating the list, we're going to have the correct iteration of numbers. So then we can do else if the number not in list, right? So if the number is not in scene, here's where we iterate. We're going to add that number equal to I, right? So this is how we solve this. Let's check. There you go. This was an easy one, but it's good to try to understand it, and it's going to be helpful for the next one. So hope this helped. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Bye.